The gateway to hell. For the early explorers of the 15th century, reaching the southern tip of Africa wasn't just a mission. It was a psychological battle against the unknown. At the time, Europe was desperate for a sea route to the riches of India. The spices, the silks, and the gold that moved along the Silk Road were being taxed to death by middlemen. But standing in their way was a jagged peninsula that seemed to be guarded by the gods themselves. In 1488, Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias became the first European to attempt the crossing. What he encountered wasn't a calm sea, but a chaotic hellscape. Violent winds tossed his wooden ship like a toy, nearly splintering it against the rocks. He barely escaped with his life, and upon his return, he didn't call it a Cape of Hope. He named it Cabo das Tormentas, the Cape of Storms. However, King John II of Portugal had a different vision. He was a master of branding and knew that if they could master this passage, Portugal would become the wealthiest empire on earth. He rebranded it the Cape of Good Hope to entice sailors and investors, but the name change was purely cosmetic. It did nothing to calm the waters. Following Dias, Vasco da Gama finally successfully rounded the Cape and reached India, ushering in a bloody and profitable era of colonialism. For the Dutch, the British, and the Portuguese, this route became a highway of wealth, but it was paved with the wrecks of those who underestimated the southern currents. The legend of the Flying Dutchman. As more ships braved the route, the body count began to rise at an alarming rate. Hundreds of vessels vanished without a trace, leading to whispers that the area was cursed or inhabited by supernatural forces. This is where the legend of the Flying Dutchman was born, perhaps the most famous ghost story in maritime history. Legend has it that in the 1600s, a Dutch captain named Hendrik van der Decken was struggling to round the Cape during a fierce storm. Driven by ego and madness, he ignored the pleas of his terrified crew and swore an oath that he would complete the journey even if it took him until doomsday. The sea took him up on that offer. His ship went down with all hands, and for centuries since, sailors have reported seeing a glowing phantom ship appearing through the fog, sailing against the wind, its tattered sails never touching the water. Even Prince George of Wales, the future King George V, recorded a sighting of this ghost ship in 1881 while aboard the Ms. Bacchante. While modern logic tells us these are likely Fata Morgana mirages, a complex form of superior image refraction caused by temperature inversions, the sheer number of shipwrecks in the area makes the ghost stories feel uncomfortably real. When you are standing on a deck in the middle of a pitch-black night, with waves crashing over the bow, logic tends to disappear. The geography of a death trap. If we strip away the myths and look at the science, the Cape of Good Hope is a literal perfect storm of geography. It is the meeting point of two massive, clashing water bodies, the ice-cold, nutrient-rich Benguela Current from the Atlantic and the warm, fast-moving Agulhas Current from the Indian Ocean. When these two currents collide, they create what oceanographers call standing waves. These aren't your typical surfing waves, these are rogue waves, walls of water that can reach heights of 100 feet or more. Unlike standard waves, these rogues are unpredictable and possess enough kinetic energy to snap a modern tanker like a dry twig. Even a 200,000-ton container ship, built of reinforced high-tensile steel, can be devastated if it hits one of these waves at the wrong angle, causing the hull to stress fracture or the ship to founder in seconds. Adding to the chaos are the roaring 40s. These are powerful westerly winds that blow between 40 and 50 degrees latitude. Because there is almost no landmass in the southern hemisphere at this latitude to slow them down, these winds pick up incredible speed, whipping the ocean into a frenzy. In the winter months, 15-meter waves are considered normal business. But the water isn't the only threat. The coastline itself is a jagged graveyard. If a ship loses engine power or makes a slight navigational error, there is nowhere to hide. The rocks are razor sharp, hidden just beneath the surface like landmines. To the west, The skeleton coast in Namibia is even more haunting. It's called the skeleton coast for a reason, not just because of the whale bones that litter the sand, but because of the rusted skeletons of ships that sit stranded in the desert dunes, miles from the current waterline, as the shifting sands swallow them whole. The Suez Shortcut and the 12% crisis. For nearly 400 years, there was no choice. If you wanted to trade between the East and the West, you had to gamble with the Cape. That changed in 1869 with the opening of the Suez Canal. This engineering miracle carved a path through Egypt, connecting the Mediterranean directly to the Red Sea. Suddenly, the journey from London to Mumbai was shortened by 4,300 miles. It was a revolution for global trade. The Cape of Good Hope was largely abandoned by commercial shipping, relegated to a scenic route or a path for ships too massive to fit through the canal's locks. Today, roughly 12% of all global trade passes through the Suez Canal. It is the jugular vein of the world economy, carrying everything from crude oil to the latest smartphones. We saw how fragile this vein was in 2021 when a single ship, the Ever Given, got wedged in the canal, costing the global economy nearly $10 billion every single day. But there's a catch. The Suez Canal is a narrow, man-made bottleneck. When it becomes a no-go zone, whether due to mechanical accidents, regional wars, or high seas piracy, the world is forced back into the cold, dangerous arms of the Cape of Storms. Modern pirates and the Red Sea chaos. As of 2024, the Cape of Good Hope is seeing a massive, unexpected resurgence in traffic. This isn't a choice. It's a survival tactic. Due to the ongoing conflict in the Red Sea and targeted attacks by Houthi rebels on Western-linked container ships, many of the world's largest shipping conglomerates have diverted their entire fleets. They are choosing the 100-foot waves and the extra 10 days of fuel costs over the risk of a drone strike or a missile hit. But the Cape route brings its own human dangers that haven't changed much since the 1700s. Piracy. If a captain manages to survive the storms of the South, they have to run a gauntlet of modern-day marauders on both sides of the continent. To the east, the Horn of Africa and the waters off Somalia became a nightmare in the early 2010s. Pirates in small, high-speed skiffs, armed with RPGs and satellite phones, would hijack massive oil tankers, holding the crew hostage for months. In 2011 alone, piracy cost the global economy $7 billion in insurance hikes and security details. While international naval task forces managed to suppress Somali piracy for a decade, the recent instability in the region has seen a spike in boarding attempts once again. To the west, the Gulf of Guinea near Nigeria has become the new global kidnapping capital. Unlike Somali pirates who want the ship and cargo, these groups often just want the people. In 2020, 95% of all maritime kidnappings occurred in this specific region. Imagine surviving the most violent storms on Earth at the Cape, only to be boarded by armed militants a few days later. This is the reality for modern merchant mariners. The strategic chessboard. The waters around Africa aren't just a graveyard, they are a high-stakes military chessboard. Because this route is the only viable alternative to the Suez Canal, global superpowers are obsessed with maintaining a presence here. Djibouti, located at the mouth of the Red Sea, has become a hub for international military bases. The US, France, Italy, Japan, and China all have permanent installations there. China's base in Djibouti is particularly significant, as it represents their first overseas military outpost, designed specifically to protect their Belt and Road maritime interests. When ships divert around the Cape, they often pass through the Mozambique Channel, a stretch of water between Madagascar and mainland Africa. This area is notorious for its own set of freak storms and unpredictable winds. For a modern captain, navigating the African coastline is like walking a tightrope. On one side, you have the most violent natural forces on the planet, currents that can rip a ship apart. On the other, you have the most volatile geopolitical landscapes, where a single political shift can close a port or trigger a blockade? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching,